Welcome to Ladies-in-Law, where real-world advice meets professional wisdom and empowerment in realms of law and business. Your hosts, Lisa Goucher, Dawn Smith, and Kellye Raymond, bring you innovative strategies, practical guidance, and inspirational stories. Join us as we inspire and support women to thrive in traditionally male-dominated fields. We're here to promote inclusivity and provide practical advice for success. Hi, Lisa here with Dawn and Kellye. Today we are talking about networking and mentorship. All right, Dawn, get us going.
Wow, just throwing it over to me. The importance of networking and mentorship, I think probably as leaders and being women in this field, networking and mentorship is probably one of the most important things that we can do to really help others learn and grow in our field. I mean, that's it. That's probably one of the most important things. And how do we do that?
The most important thing, if you are starting a business, how are you putting yourself in the best position to grow that business? A business, it could be the best business in the world. If it's not growing and you're not getting new business, you're stagnant. And networking, having a mentor, and there are two different things, right? Networking, putting yourself in front of people, meeting new people, building new relationships to grow your business, and having a mentor or being a mentor and continuing to learn, continuing to push yourself, I think arguably some of the most important things you could ever do for your business.
I mean, that's how you started out, right? You went out on your own and you decided, I got to put myself out there because you had to get clients.
Well, I didn't decide that. I was kind of forced into that. So when I started my jury consulting firm, my mentor, Lisa Blue, the very first thing that she told me was go to everything. Go to every happy hour event and go to every judicial fundraiser, go to every luncheon and just talk to people. Introduce yourself to people and just get out there. And it was the best advice because that I still try to push myself to do that now because I'll run into somebody I haven't seen maybe for a couple of years and they'll say, oh gosh, I've been meaning to call you. Let's talk. And it was very difficult at the beginning though. I am naturally a little bit more introverted, believe it or not.
Come on.
And so I find it wildly uncomfortable to walk into a room where I don't know very many people. And I felt like I was trying to sell myself. That's a very uncomfortable thing to do. And so I think just the experience of showing up and talking to people, one of the things that I had to learn was take away the expectation of trying to sell yourself and just be yourself and get to know different people. And maybe you meet somebody that's super interesting that will never give you any business, but they could help you in a different way.
I mean, it's not about selling yourself. It's about building those relationships. I mean, Lisa, you were talking about how important it was when you made that decision to change from being a paralegal to starting a business, and just immediately your mindset changed.
Oh, it did. It just goes to another level. And the basis of the whole thing was relationships. The relationships were what presented the opportunity. And then it was the relationships that allowed me to bring in the business that I had cultivated as a paralegal, just being responsible, loyal, working really hard and making sure that, I cared about what I was doing. And in my business, there's no contracts. It's all relationship driven. So when you're networking, you've got to go at it like you're trying to build a relationship. If you are struggling to go to everything, like Kellye says, I recommend get a friend to go with you. There's not, it closes that gap on discomfort related to walking into an event where you know absolutely no one, and having the ability to have someone stand beside you that you can like banter off of. It just, if you walk up to somebody who's like as personable as that wall, then if you have a friend that's there with you, it just doesn't go to that uncomfortable place. And quite honestly, probably the person that doesn't come across personable, they are probably there for the very same reason that you are there.
Yes. I think the buddy system is great advice. Having somebody there with you. I will never forget one of the very first networking events that I went to. It was a political fundraiser, and I was very early in my career. I went to this political fundraiser. I thought I had buddies that were going to be meeting me there. They weren't able to make it. I'm there. I know next to nobody. And it was just, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not pushing yourself, right?
I mean, nobody wants to walk in. I mean, maybe somebody, but I would say in general, you don't want to just walk into a room full of people that you don't know.
Exactly. Do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a natural thing, but it's all about growth. It's about pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone and propping yourself up with people that will encourage you to do that.
Yes.
I mean, I met Curtis. I met my partner at a networking event when I was an undergrad at UNT. There was a judges function. There was, some sort of judicial fundraiser. It was a fundraiser in Denton off the square. And I met him and started talking to him. And I think I went with one of the other people that was in the business sorority, the business fraternity that I was in. So we went together, but I met him and basically Curtis offered me a job.
You never know.
And I called him on Monday. He offered me a job. We tell this story. He offered me a job that he had no power to offer whatsoever. He had just started at a firm. And so when I called him, he said I was one of the first people he said he'd offered people jobs before and nobody had ever called him. I called him first thing Monday morning and he had to go to his boss and say, so I offered this girl a job and I think she'll be great. And can we hire her?
And
I got the job.
History.
That's right.
That's such a valid point because I met my husband networking too. It was in college, a field in the party. I'd be at a party in the field, so we're just going to chalk that up to networking as well.
Yes.
I started early.
You never know who you're going to meet. One of the things that I found helped me the most, again, push myself outside of my comfort zone is changing the mindset of thinking, I'm going to walk into a place and how can these people help me? I think shifting your mindset to how can I help somebody that I meet? And the rest of it always seems to fall in line, right?
That's 100%. That's a great mind shift
to what people are saying. And if you made a really good point too, talking about being an introvert, that can be a challenging situation. I'm not. I'm an extrovert, so I can just BS my way until, just with pleasantries or whatever the case may be. But I do have a lot of introverted friends, and they find that if they know what their spiel is, not so calculated that it's like coming across like a computer or a robot, but knowing what you would say about what do you do?
You have to have an elevator pitch.
Yeah, your elevator pitch.
That's right.
Be prepared.
Yeah, you have to have an elevator pitch that is memorable, that is quick, that really, they call it an elevator pitch because you could say it on an elevator when you're going up, not necessarily 20 floors, but, 5 or 10. You got to be able to say who you are, what you do, and what you're passionate about in really 2 sentences.
Yeah, absolutely. And remembering that it's not always all about you, I think is sometimes we struggle with that. But when you're in a conversation with somebody, ask questions, get to know them. People love to talk about themselves, generally speaking, right?
100%.
But sometimes you've got to ask the questions, and that way you can run into that person again and say, "Oh, how's your kid doing? I remember you said that they were starting school," and that makes you memorable to get to know somebody on a personal level, making a human connection with them. Step outside for a second. Stop thinking about what could I get out of this relationship? It doesn't have to be transactional. Some of the best business relationships I've cultivated have started from a place of, we just run into each other and we're friendly, and then it grew into a business relationship.
And then once you have the relationship, let's go to the next topic related to this. How do you leverage it?
So that's the thing. I think Kellye really touched on something important is knowing those personal things, paying attention to really those personal events in people's lives. I put notes on my phone. So if I enter somebody, I always try to get somebody's number. I enter it into my iPhone, and I just put notes right there with their name, how I met them, some sort of personal information about them that I learned that day that seemed really important to them and to me. And I just put it in my phone. And that way, when I'm searching and looking for people, I remember it. It refreshes my memory to, ask them about how their 6-month-old is, or, they went to France, or they went to, Texas or something like that, just to talk to them on that personal level. And once you get to that point, then you can get to, how can we work together? That's how you leverage relationships. You have to build the relationship first.
Yes. Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. And it's so interesting because I never thought of it like that. I was thinking leveraging like just the ask, but I function the same way. It's having the relationship and knowing that person and checking in, consistency, touching base, especially in this day and age where you can do it via social media, phone, text, email. There's so many ways to stay connected with people.
I think one of the great things that you can also do is, again, think about how you can help somebody. And it might not be anything in your skill set or anything that you can do, but can you connect that person with somebody that may be able to help them? Makes you memorable. I think it's not just always waiting around for how can somebody I'm meeting help me. It's let me try to be a little bit proactive. I met somebody that was needing branding help, and I said, oh, let me connect you with somebody that's great at that has that
expertise,
yes,
forte,
that value.
Thank you. Yeah. It's always good to have a buddy to help you.
It's all about adding value.
Can I tell you the biggest faux pas that I am guilty of doing so much when I'm networking is bringing business cards. I forget to bring business cards, and inevitably somebody will ask me, do you have a card? And I'll dig through my big Mary Poppins bag, knowing full well that there are no business cards in there. And that is something I constantly have to check myself. Do I have business cards?
I have a solution. Okay. It's called the dot card. You have it on your phone. You can tap your phone to somebody else's phone, and it automatically puts your information into their phone.
That's so good.
There's several different companies. Dot is one.
Popple. I
Popple.
think Popple's another one.
That's another one. And you also can carry one. Like I have one in my wallet, just one card. It's a thick card, like a credit card. And and it's got a QR code on it too.
Oh, that's good.
So they can just
all this
scan.
Technology.
Look at it. She's the youngest one, and
I know,
so
and
behind.
I just really don't like technology.
Dawn schooling, Kellye.
That happens, us old ladies.
Well,
sometimes.
a couple of weeks ago, I did not have a business card. I was speaking on a panel, and afterwards, somebody came up to get my information. I did not have a business card, and this gentleman told me I was committing business malpractice.
Yeah,
and it was true. And I just thought, you idiot, Kellye, you've got to figure this out. I think I need to embrace the technology here in this very limited instance.
I'm gonna send you a dot card.
I
Yes.
so appreciate you.
100%. Well, along those lines, right? We're talking about networking. I mean, mentorship is something that really just dovetails onto that. How can we mentor others, and looking for a good mentor? Like, how do we go about? I'm sure you've had a mentor in your career, and so have you, Kellye. I mean, how did you go about finding the right mentor in this industry to kind of promote your growth, just learn and grow and build in this field?
Well, remember, I'm not an attorney, but I worked as a paralegal, and I was working at a firm, and there were 3 partners. And when the opportunity presented itself that I was going to go to the court reporting firm, the one that I worked the least with was the one that was the most helpful. He was the one that the other 2 took it personal. So
that you were leaving.
That I was leaving, and they were never going to send me work. I was able to overcome that. But that's when Harold Hunter stepped in, and he truly became a friend. So I think most often the mentors are going to show themselves.
That's been my experience. Finding a mentor or having a mentor came very naturally for me. I think I must have done something good in a past life that Lisa Blue has been a mentor to me. She really pushed me to start my business. She gives me business. She is a constant sounding board for me. I literally called her yesterday and said, "Hey, I just got asked to do something. What do you think about this?" And that's what you're looking for, I think, in a mentor, is somebody that will give you advice, to be a sounding board. What do you think about this? The great thing about this business is that you're never going to know it all. And I would always be very leery of anybody in business and in law that thinks that they know everything. And so having somebody smarter than you, more experienced than you, to be able to bounce ideas off of is just invaluable.
It is. It's key. In fact, you really, I think especially when you're just coming up, regardless, in business, in law, wherever, you have to have somebody that you trust, that you can rely on, that will take your calls no matter what, and then just has a genuine interest in trying to help. And on this end of it, you just have to reach out and be available.
And also in my industry, I'm not a court reporter. I'll never be a court reporter. I just run the business, manage it, and bring in business. I've learned a lot about it. But that was also like, I had a void. When I joined the court reporting firm, I decided I am going to get involved in all of the associations. Well, because I didn't have that skill set of actually being a court reporter, I wasn't well received. Except I was well received by Risa Parker. So that just showed itself too. She'd been president of the National Court Reporters Association. She was here locally. So for me, the business side presented itself, and then also the work, the skill set side presented itself as well. So those individuals, they were my go-tos. And then I met Dawn. And so Dawn became a go-to as well. I could ask her business related questions. They do evolve from the mentorship standpoint. How are you mentoring anyone under you now? How does that evolve?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, because I feel like at this point, you've got to give back. You've got to give back. And I don't know if I am a mentor to anyone, really thinking about it. I mean, I try to put myself out there. I try to offer, advice and tips. And when people are asking me questions, I always am answering those questions. But I don't know if I have somebody that really relies on me for those kind of things. And I would love that.
Well, I think some of it is just being available, being approachable, so that somebody feels comfortable to come up and ask you a question. Somebody is starting out in their career, starting out in a new venture, just being there, being around, being approachable, I think is kind of the first step to making yourself available to being a mentor to somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, one of those things I think along those lines are really making sure that relationship, the mentoree, is that right?
Yeah, yes, I think so.
That relationship is as reciprocal as possible, right? I mean, there's got to be boundaries. Hopefully you're in a situation to where you can call that mentor at any time. I mean, my first boss has been a mentor to me for a long time, and I rely on him. In fact, I saw him when I was in California. He met me for breakfast and just talked about a lot of different things. And I think just making sure that you're available to them as well when they're asking for help or feeding off of kind of the good positive things that are going on. And I think the relationship changes over time. I know it has, at least with that relationship, because I feel like now he kind of asks me for advice sometimes, which is pretty cool.
Well, I think the challenging thing too can be feeling like, to find a mentor or to be a mentor, people can feel like they're competing. If you're in the same industry doing the very same thing. So maybe if you're struggling, find somebody that's not doing exactly what you're doing. There's one individual, she was a paralegal in Dallas. She moved back to North Carolina. Same scenario as me, working as a paralegal, owning a court reporting firm. So we share information back and forth. And that relationship has grown over the years. I sold my business. She sold her business. I got back in business. She just got back in business. So, I've been able to share from that standpoint. But I think a lot of times a mentor can be difficult to find because you feel like you're competing. So you need to find somebody outside.
I think that's so true. I think that's great advice to kind of go outside of where you might necessarily think to start looking for a mentor. But one thing to keep in mind is that I believe competition sort of happens at the bottom, collaboration happens at the top. And so trying to shift your mindset into thinking, this is not a competition. This is somebody that I could learn from. You may be doing the same business, you may be competing for clients, but can you collaborate? Can you learn something from that person? And likewise, being open and available to help somebody that's looking for your help that is in the same field. I think, again, think of it as, could we collaborate with that person one day, as opposed to, am I competing with this person?
Absolutely. Especially when you're in a specific area of law, there is competition for cases, 100%. But if you can figure out how to bridge that gap and figure out what you can add and what they can add and come together, the clients are going to be better served. I mean, that kind of goes beyond mentorship, but it's certainly part of networking, is really building that group, that core group of people that are, smarter than you, that you can learn from. And then hopefully they're learning from you as well. So it's reciprocal, and everybody benefits from that.
I think that's true. And, that's something I think COVID has impacted. I know that you guys like to tease me because I don't like social media and technology, but I think that there is something to be said for being in person somewhere and connecting with somebody on a human level versus connecting on a LinkedIn profile and talking to somebody. See, I said earlier, sometimes I'll go to networking events. I'll see somebody that I haven't worked with in years, and they'll say, "Oh, I was thinking about you the other day. I'm glad that I ran into you. Let's talk about whatever it is we could work together on." And I think that there's this aspect of being more isolated and doing things more online that I know there's a place for it. But I think, what is y'all's experience with kind of weighing how you're connecting on social media versus connecting in person?
So I think there's really two ways to look at that. I think that Facebook, Instagram, social media in general, you can kind of keep up with people without necessarily talking to them. You have that baseline of knowledge about what is important to them, what's going on with them. You feel like you're kind of part of their lives without necessarily talking to them. So that builds that base. But absolutely, you have to have those one-on-one connections that are separate and apart from just understanding who they are and kind of what they're going through. And then, are people just really genuine on social media most of the time? Are they talking about the hard things? Most of the time they're not. And I think social media can be isolating, absolutely isolating, because you're just seeing the good things. You're not seeing any of the hard things.
Well, how do you feel specifically with the young lawyers in your firm? How are you able to mentor them if they're not in the office all the time, or if you're communicating more through technology as opposed to in person? Do you feel like you're still able to, before COVID, when everybody was in the office all the time, I think a lot of growth, a lot of knowledge happened just passing somebody in the hallway, or, meeting somebody in the kitchen on accident, and, let's kind of randomly this, topic comes up, and we've sort of lost some of that with folks working more remotely. How do you feel like with your young lawyers, you cultivate those relationships?
So I'm still working on that. Absolutely still working on that. For me, the way I came up in this industry, when you're at the office, you are working. You are working, you are getting your stuff done, you are moving your cases. There is no time to talk. So that's kind of old school kind of thinking. And now I've really tried to start branching out in my thinking, because you have to build relationships at the office as well, so that they feel comfortable coming and talking to you. And I've absolutely struggled with that. I really have, just because of that mindset. I'm just not a chatty person. I'm not a small talk person. My husband's great at it. My husband's great at small talking with people, especially at the office, but I just haven't been great at that. So I really have found value more now than I have in the past about taking those moments of time to have those genuine relationships. And we have a hybrid, we have a hybrid situation. Most of the people are in the office all the time, but some work hybrid. And we use Slack to where you can have those video conversations too. I think if you can see somebody, you're not in the same room with them, but as long as you can see them, you can still have that connection.
A little bit more of a connection.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you?
I wholeheartedly agree. I think that just the ability to connect in person, even if it is Zoom, you're going to have interactions that you're not ordinarily going to have that you would type out in an email or a text. So when you're trying to mentor someone or to resolve an issue related to something that's going on at the office, actually hearing the voice, seeing the person, having that conversation, I think it goes a long way. And I think it lends itself to furthering the relationship and having a better understanding of their needs, your needs, because honestly, that's what mentoring is all about. Whether you're seeking a mentor or you're being a mentor, is you've got to identify the need and go from there.
Got to have that connection.
Yes, the connection, the relationship, and you go from there.
So, I think just to kind of recap some of the things, just some practical tips, right? Put yourself out there. You got to put yourself out there and take a buddy. If it's really uncomfortable, take a buddy with you. Follow up when you meet people that you've made a genuine connection with. Follow up within 48 hours if you can after meeting them, and then, set regular calls, monthly, quarterly, that's how we started, right? Our quarterly meetups.
Yes.
So I think quarterly is kind of a good part to be on. Anything else that you guys can think of that are, kind of helpful?
I really think just not being afraid to look for advice, especially if you are starting your own business. You don't know what you don't know. And so having somebody, multiple people that you can call and say, I'm running into this issue, or I've got a question about X, Y, or Z, having somebody to bounce those ideas off of is the whole point of having a mentor. Learn from somebody who has gone through what you've gone through, and maybe you can learn from their mistakes and not make your own.
Yes, please learn from other people's mistakes.
It's always easier to do that than to learn the hard way.
Exactly.
Well, and to expand upon what Dawn, you said related to leveraging, leveraging to me initially coming out of the gate was like, how can I use my relationship to get something? But instead of seeing it like that, use your relationships to gather more information about them genuinely, their families, what they're doing, what they have going on. And that opportunity to serve a greater purpose, that's your leverage.
That's right. I've actually been in that position before where I was just chatting casually with somebody that probably would never give me any business. But a couple weeks later, I saw an article that directly related to a conversation that we had. And so I just sent that article along. Hey, I'm thinking about you. This might be interesting for you. And that was a way to, again, connect and follow up. And I think that's certainly following up is crucial here.
Yeah. And how can you add value? Right? If you're building a network, it's not about you, it's about them. How can you add value to that person? And that is being authentic. That is being genuine. That is helping you grow and them grow. So,
yes.
And
not forgetting your business cards.
Get a dot card, Kellye. Get a dot card.
All right. I think we'll end on that note. Would love to hear from you. hello@ladiesinlaw.com. Let me tell you, it's ladies in the letter N law.com. hello@ladiesinlaw.com. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Ladies in Law. We hope you're walking away inspired and ready to shake things up in law and business. Don't forget to hit subscribe and let us know what you think. Spread the word and share this podcast with your network. Follow us on socials for all the behind-the-scenes fun and sneak peeks of upcoming episodes. Until next time, keep rocking it, keep breaking the mold, and as always, keep aspiring to inspire.